What's up, stoners, stone agers? What is like the band name? Freaks. We'll go with Freaks, because God knows that Josh was a freak when we saw him live. This is essentially the culmination of my entire experience with Queens of the freaking Stone Age, guys. This journey started back years ago. I don't even know when the first reaction was, but I was not only living in a different city, not only living in a different state, but living in a different continent. So much has changed in my life, and I just want to appreciate the time we've shared together, me and you. You know, I'm talking specifically you. From start to finish, you've been here with me on this Queens of the Stone Age journey as I humbly reacted to each and every album on this channel. So if you're interested in that, check out the playlist in the description. You'll see more Queens reactions. But now that I've actually listened to every major album, I think it's time to actually give my thoughts on it and how they've evolved over time. And just as a quick little backstory, like when you're reacting to something on a camera, like you have a camera in front of you, you're trying to be entertaining, you're trying to listen to a new song for the first time, you're trying to understand the lyrics in some small capacity, though I've mostly given up on that on a first listen, and you're trying to give insightful commentary as well. So it's a very like overwhelming experience. So really, I don't know how I actually feel long-term about an album until after I go back and I listen a bunch of times. So with that said, a lot of my thoughts have evolved so much on all of the Queens of the Stone Age albums. But let's just get straight into the ranking, guys. With number 8, the most recent album, In Times New Roman. I know that might be a shock to some of you. And it was honestly a massive shock for me too. But what I do want to say, right as I start out here, is that I actually think Queens of the Stone Age may be, and I'm not just saying this because, oh, I'm reacting, but saying this as a totally genuine comment, I think Queens of the Stone Age might actually be the most consistent rock outfit I have ever listened to. From album to album, the quality is so consistent. So even when I'm talking about my least favorite or worst, it's like still a pretty decent album. The biggest crime this album commits for me is, you know, the lead singles, like, you know, I remember listening to Carnivore and Emotion Sickness. They were just so good. Absolutely loved them, and I loved the anticipation that built for the coming release. However, can you look at this? I don't need a gambling ad in the middle of my video. Come on. These people are already messed up enough, man. They're Queens of the Stone Age fans. But yeah, I was so excited for the album release. But unfortunately, most of the deeper cuts on the album either feel like they're rehashing something that may have been done slightly better or was maybe more novel at the time. So a great example of that is Paper Machete, which is a fun song, but it doesn't hit the highs of something like Little Sister, which it's clearly has some sort of callback to sonically. But when Little Sister came out, it was a completely new thing, and now we have something that's kind of referencing it and remixing it slightly, but just doesn't have the same spark to me as those like earlier songs that have inspired these later ones. And then there's some songs on the album that are just, to me, mostly filler, like Made to Parade. There's a few songs on here absolutely amazing, like Straight Jacket Fitting. Like I said, Emotion Sickness or Carnivore. But even the songs that I would typically absolutely love, the really weird ones like Sicily, I just don't find myself needing to return to them too much. The production on this album is really sparse and kind of dry, I guess. It just doesn't have the same oomph behind it that I would really love to hear from some of the heavier tracks as well. So really disappointed by this one. With all that being said, it would still, to me, I would give it a positive review. But it would just be slightly in the positive territory. And the thing is, like, again, when I first listened to these songs, I actually really liked pretty much every single one. But over time, I didn't find myself returning to them. And when we went and saw them live, the songs that I was most looking forward to, none of them were on the new album. Except for Straight Jacket Fitting, which wasn't even played. So there's cool stuff here, but it's just not quite to the level of the rest. And next we have the most recent album that I've listened to. So we have the two bookends already covered. Their Queens of the Stone Age debut album, 1998. This album is dirty. And I mean the dirtiest bass tones you've ever heard. Like even dirtier than the stuff that comes later. Apparently this is mostly, based on your comments, mostly like a Josh Homme solo project, essentially. Like he did most of the writing, including the bass work. And it's just gritty, fuzzy, awesome, weird. The thing is, this is probably the most uneven album. There's a couple of songs on here that I just don't really care for too much, like Hispanic Impressions and then the finale song. I don't know all the names yet because it's a little newer, but yeah, there's some unevenness here where probably the least consistent in terms of track quality, but the highs here reach those peaks that I really want from Queens of the Stone Age that are just missing a little bit from the most recent outing. And just from a personal taste standpoint too, I've been so into this super gritty, dark, industrial, like sound, and this album just has that in spades. The bass tones and the bass lines in this whole album just carry the whole thing, and it's a beauty to behold. Time will tell if this one actually like rises or sinks slightly in my ranking. I could see it potentially falling as I revisit In Times New Roman, but part of me just wishes they would go back to this super dark, gritty sound at sometimes, because it was just such a shock listening to it for the first time. In number 6, we have 2017's Villains. And I know this is probably the hottest take, because I think, is this considered the least favorite by most fans? Probably. And genuinely, and I mean this in all honesty, I do not understand why. This album is fucking awesome. It slaps, okay? And every single time I go back to it, I find another song that I'm like, I've actually been underrating this one. And I've realized it's like pretty much the whole album. Like there's 2 songs on here that I wouldn't say I'm like a super fan of, and that would be Head Like a Haunted House and Hideaway. When I first heard them, they were great, like different and fun, but every time I've gone back to the album, I found myself skipping those more and more. And this album does suffer from the same issue as In Times New Roman, where the production is a little bit flat here and there, but I think something about the aesthetic of the album just like rubs people the wrong way. Like people have like this strange, ridiculously overhyped aversion to pop in a way that they're like, ew, that thing had something catchy and I don't like it anymore. It's like the way you used to do is a amazing pop rock kind of jam. I know it's not their typical forte and what they typically go for, but there's nothing wrong with a change of genre as long as you do it masterfully. And I think that song is super, super well done, albeit slightly long. But from start to finish, there are so many like 6 to 7 minute long songs in here that just go on and on, are filled with these super dense riffs constantly throughout the whole thing. And it's capped off by one of my absolute favorite Queens of the Stone Age songs in Villains of Circumstance, which I'm so sad I didn't see live, but I'm so glad was played in this live show here. Definitely recommend getting the video for this because it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The entire live show in the Catacombs is absolutely stunning. You guys got to check it out. I really couldn't implore you more to pay for the video because it is such like a theatrical experience. Even you see the aspect ratio is 4:3. It just feels timeless. It feels like something that you just stumbled upon that's been existing for generations, and you've uncovered this magical artifact that you're going to pass down to your children. Like, I'm so passionate about this. If you could not tell, that's why I'm playing it in the background, just so I can get people to do it. See the live in Catacombs concert from Queens of the Stone Age. But yeah, anyways. There are so many songs on this album that I think are severely underrated by you guys. And for being the album that is considered like the pop album, it's weird how it has the like most progressive and long tracks. It feels like it does have a shorter track listing. And like I said, there are a couple songs in here that I'm not a huge fan of, but I love the kind of like slight twist on the classic Queen sound here. It goes for maybe more of a classic rock kind of sound in a few places, but keeps the progressive and dirty spin that we love from Queens of the Stone Age. Again, if the production was just fixed a little bit here, made to be a little stronger and bigger, I think that this album could maybe even be higher on the list. And at this point, we have gotten to the... Stop running ads on my video. I'm going to already have ads, probably. I'm gonna block that with something. But yeah, once we get past Villains and the debut, I would say, or not Villains, once we get past In Times New Roman and the debut, we're in what I would consider the core Queens of the Stone Age albums that, to me, define the band, mean the most to me, and I think mean the most to most of the audience. So, I don't know, see if these are hot takes, I don't even know. Next at number 5, we have Lullabies to Paralyze, which I think is a bit of the black sheep of the family here, because coming right after Songs for the Deaf, it's hard to feel like you can live up to something that has so much hype and attention around it. even to this day, just scrolling on Instagram and stuff, I'll have like the intro to Song for the Deaf, like, or Song for the Dead, just like blasted constantly. It's like a cultural icon, that entire album. And even being someone who never had heard of the band Queens of the Stone Age, I had heard No One Knows 50 times before I did my reaction. So, I mean, that album just made its way around. It was the sluttiest album of all. Before we get into my hype for this album, of which I have a lot, I will say my one small drawback here is that I think the whole concept here was slightly mishandled. The intro just sets this great vibe for something a little bit more akin to like Clockwork, that maybe would have had some more introspective and haunting songs like A Running Joke. I think that kind of song would do so well on this album, but it's just missing that little bit of like medieval dark twist that I really wish was here on at least maybe one or two more songs. You get it at the beginning of, I can't even remember the song name right now because I don't listen to it too much, but you get it at the beginning, an intro of a couple of songs, but then the song cuts in and it's basically just standard Queens of the Stone Age, which I'm not complaining about. I love Queens of the Stone Age, but I was hoping for something a little bit more experimental here on a few different parts. Now I will say, some of the songs here are just absolutely drop dead astounding. We have Little Sister, which is probably their best like pop-ish hit that they've ever done. I mean, I guess No One Knows is technically, but this Little Sister is a lot more approachable of a song, I think, and it is just so good. I will share that to anyone. Has maybe the best guitar solo of all time, and it's just absolutely stunning. And that experimentation is found in a few places though, like Everybody Knows That You're Insane. Burn the Witch has a totally different sound than I'm used to. Actually, it's like very a musy chorus, which was amazing to hear. The Blood Is Love does have that intro that I was talking about. And Like a Drug also has like that just really like smooth, dark sound that is probably, to be honest, my favorite out of all the Queen's like styles that they jump into is like the Running Joke and Like a Drug. And even the songs that for kind of like drift into that more standard Queen sound, like Long Slow Goodbye or I Never Came, all have like little twists to them that make them really fun to return to. The only thing holding this album back a little bit outside of that thematic thing that I feel like is just missing a little bit is that Skin on Skin and Broken Box are really just not my favorite of Queen songs. And there aren't that many songs that, like, let's say if I was at a live show, I would be like, they absolutely have to play this song from Lullabies to Paralyze or I will shit myself and fart and piss all over the place. But there are a lot of songs on the upcoming albums that I do feel that way about. So as much as I feel like this is really a great total package, the others just have a little bit more. And next we have the most special album of all. I mean, just look at that cover. These guys are degenerates. Era Vulgaris, yes. Era Vulgaris, I've talked about it a lot lately. You heard me talk about it a lot in my last reaction. I swear to God, I have a love-hate relationship with this album. At moments, I think it's the most genius thing that's ever been created. 5 seconds later, I was pissed. I was angry at Josh. It's like, why did you do that? But then every time I come back, I'm like, no, that actually does work. And I find one more thing that I'm just like, actually, I do like that a lot. And every time I've just liked more and more of this album. It's gone from, I think it would have pretty easily been my least favorite on a first listen, which is why I didn't want to do this ranking until a couple years later where I actually was really familiar with the albums. But it would have been last, and now it's moved all the way up to upper middle of the pack. So just out of the top 3. And the only reason for that is that there's a couple of songs in here that I don't love, like River in the Road and what is it called? Run Pig Run. And then the fact that the bonus tracks are like better than those songs by quite a lot and are just kicked off the album makes me an Angie boy. The Fun Machine, you have the Era Vulgaris title track, which is just not on there for some stupid reason. Running Joke wasn't on there at the beginning. Like, all of these songs to me would have elevated the album to be one slot higher even, which is absolutely crazy. But they're not on there and replaced by a couple of songs that I just think are pretty decent. And then there are some songs like in the classics of this album that I actually don't vibe with as much. No, I'm getting through the negatives first. Like Battery Acid, I like the energy of it, but it just doesn't, it's not pleasant to the ears. It's kind of like, it's a bit like grating. But then you have songs like Misfit Love, which just, oh my God, that beginning, that intro is like one of the greatest intros ever of all time. And you listen to that in the basement, like the live version from the basement, it's even better somehow. Like they topped it. Actually, this whole album live is crazy. Songs like I'm Designer that manage to blend a classic Queen sound with something totally new, weird, crazy, and chaotic. You still have like the chorus that's like totally catchy. You have Make It With You, which is just one of the most groove-centric, fun vibe songs ever. Like, it was so fun live. And you have the grittiest and dirtiest Queen song of all time in Sick, 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 which is just an unstoppable force of nature. Probably my favorite song to play on guitar right now. And that's without even getting into Suture Up Your Future or Into the Hollow, both of which are so beautiful along with Running Joke and do kind of actually fit that vibe I thought we were going to get from Lullabies to Paralyze even better than this album. So while this album, I guess, again, is slightly uneven in terms of its styling and kind of the way it bounces all around, which is part of the point of the album, obviously, but it's definitely not the most even experience. There still are tracks I'm skipping here. However, the peaks on this album are the best Queen songs. Like, they're up there in the top 5, like, consistently. I know I'm dark right now. It's because of the ad. Sorry. The moment of the live show that I was the most happy for was when they played I'm Designer. So, and learning that on guitar has been a beautiful treat. I think there's something to be said about writing something that is so different. It actually takes so much more creative juices and energy and time to create something that is so unique rather than something that is derivative or a sequel to something that you've already done. Hence my slightly lower ranking of albums like In Times New Roman versus an album like this. This album pushes boundaries. It redefines what rock can be. It's something special, and it's something that I would absolutely love to see people's reactions to. And I've started to actually watch quite a few Queen's reactions in the wake of becoming such a huge fan of this album, because people aren't going to get it on the first listen, and you know that kind of going into their reaction. But I think that's what makes this album so special, though. It's like every time you go back, it's like unwrapping a new present. You just find something new and fresh in it. And next, we're off to the hardest decision by far of this entire ranking, which is between number 2 and number 3. And I honestly, like, at this point, I went back and listened to the albums again, and it's essentially like a coin toss. Like, I still, to this day, like, if you ask me tomorrow, I'll probably change my mind. At this moment, though, I have put Rated R as number 3. I know, guys. I know it's most of your favorites, probably. And for good reason. I don't blame you. It's a great choice. Songs like In the Fade are in contention for some of the best songs ever written. Better Living Through Chemistry. You have these just songs. But I think what's so special about this album, in contrast to some of the others of that era, like Songs for the Deaf, is just how catchy and intricate and beautiful, like, the different parts are. Like, you get these bass lines, like In the Fade. Like, In the Fade perhaps has the best bass line that Queens has ever done and the best guitar part. The bass line in the verse and the guitar part in the post-chorus. And I think what makes this album so special too is you see the progression of incorporating all of these different vocalists into the album and just getting the most out of them. The album doesn't go quite as heavy and hard as something like Songs for the Deaf, but it makes up for that in these you just listen to these buttery smooth riffs and you just feel like you're going to take off to another dimension, I swear to God. But even the simple songs, like, well, simple, I guess, in comparison to something like In the Fade or Better Living Through Chemistry, is something like Monsters in the Parasol. Still got this really, like, quirky, offbeat sound to it. And but it's still, like, such a catchy, approachable song. You have songs like Leg of Lamb, which just foray into these super weird, like, offbeat, like, rhythms and bass lines. To the point where when I showed my girlfriend, she was like, I actively can't listen to this because it's just too annoying. And now I've got her into being a super fan as well, guys. So you're welcome. Converting another fan, as I do. I know it's like, it's splitting hairs, but at this current stage, the main reason that this album just missed out on being number 2 is because of Lightning Song and kind of the 2 shorter songs on it. I think if you look at a song like Six Shooter, to me, that has a stronger impact than something like Quick and to the Pointless does. And Lightning Song doesn't have the same value brought to the album as something like Mosquito Song does. And because of that just slight discrepancy, that's where I've seen the albums slightly differ in this rating. But we're to the point where we're in the S tiers. Like, all of the top 3 are an S tier album. And I think you're correct with picking any of those 3 as your top 1. And I think it's pretty obvious based on everything I've said that my number 2 is Songs for the Deaf. And with the one song that I would consider the worst song of the album, which would be Another Love Song, that song I still consider like a great song. Not even just a good song, that's a great song. And every single other song just is somehow in a league slightly higher. But what I think that I love so much about this album that takes it just above is the introspective and quieter moments on this album are actually the ones that stick with me the most. Hanging Tree, Song for the Deaf, Mosquito Song, God is in the Radio. These songs that don't really go as hard as other Queen songs, despite this being known as the go heavy, go hard album, the more introspective and quieter moments are the ones that really elevate it to that next level for me. Because as you have all these amazing riffs, jam after jam, banger after banger, when we come back down to something a little bit more intricate and delicate, it doesn't slow down. It's just like nonstop. The like loose concept of it all being driving through the desert, getting those radio snippets makes it a great re-listen as well. Just adds a little bit extra flavor and spice to the listen. And I even got to the point where I found myself, like Millionaire used to be, like when I first listened to the album, may have been, if not my favorite, a top 3 in the album. And it got to the point where that's now like one of my least favorites on the album because I love the others so much more. It kind of rotates what's even my favorite throughout the months. And again, we're at the era of Queens of the Stone Age where we have all of these different vocalists bringing a totally different flavor to all the different songs. You have No One Knows, Josh singing with this beautiful, smooth, crispy voice. And then you go to the next song, it's like Hanging Tree, the most gritty Mark Lanigan sound you've ever heard. And then you go to Six Shooter, A Millionaire, you just pure screaming chaos and insanity. It's like a roller coaster of emotions. It's such a classic album. And to be honest, I think for most people, it probably is between those other two as their number 1. But for me, it's got to be Like Clockwork. Like Clockwork just saw the band going to another dimension for me. I mean, just from the first moments of that glass smashing on Keep Your Eyes Peeled, I was locked in. And the sludgiest, grittiest bass you've ever heard, every single song on here, I absolutely love. Like, I can't, if you told me, like, pick your favorite 3 section tracks of the album, like 3 consecutive tracks, I'd be like, oh my god, the first 3, I could easily do Keep Your Eyes Peeled, I Sat by the Ocean, Vampire of Time and Memory. That's easily a pick. Then you could say, okay, well, but there's also My God It's the Sun, Collapsia, and Fairweather Friends. And then I'm looking and I'm like, okay, but what about Smooth Sailing, I Appear Missing, and Like Clockwork? Those 3 as well. You could, guys, this is fucked up. What they've done here is fucked up. Someone's got to do something about this. The way that kind of like this quieter, introspective, melancholic piano sections are mixed in with the grittiest, most epic, massive sounding guitar riffs, it just makes you feel like life is worth living, like music can actually take you somewhere, like to another realm. And it really feels like, as Josh obviously had his experience on the operating table, passing away momentarily and coming back to bring this, it feels like, you know, the creation of this album, and I don't know much about the backstory beyond that, but as somebody who's just a listener, it feels like, you know, the creation of something like this is something that reminded him about the meaning of life and what it means to be alive and why we make music. And it's easy very often to dismiss music as, you know, it's entertainment, but there's moments when I'm listening to, you know, I Appear Missing or Like Clockwork, and I'm hearing him, you know, singing about being just standing on the edge. What a lovely view, like the edge of, to me, I think of the edge of life and death, or chaos and order, or sanity and insanity, and you're about to plunge into despair or into life. You're making these world-altering decisions. It just reminds you why you do it when you hear albums and songs like that. And what I love so much about this is it actually doesn't really sound that much like the rest of the Queen's discography. Like there's hints and shades, obviously, here and there, but I would say probably most notably so in songs like I Sat by the Ocean. You could probably hear the most classic Queen's sound there, but so many of the others, like Collapsia or Like Clockwork, have really never been replicated, or Vampire of Time and Memory. They've really never been replicated. The band took this one step in another direction and never came back. And to be honest, it might sound a little bit condescending in some way or something, but it's totally not. I didn't even know that the band was capable of being this intricate. Of course, I should have heard it through the shades in songs like Mosquito Song and in songs like even like I Make It With You, which just have these really delicate and beautiful parts. But the way that everything is written and presented here almost feels like it was created by a classical musician or something. Like when you hear the twinkling pianos of Collapsia, or just the beautiful chorus fading into existence in I Appear Missing, it doesn't feel like humans even made this. It feels like somebody else made it. It feels like something divine happened here. I might sound a little bit crazy to you guys, but Queens are a crazy drug. That's all I gotta say. So I know it's a little bit unfair to rank the albums because this one, honestly, none of the others ones had a shot in comparison. I was so blown away when I first heard this, and I remain blown away every time I hear it to this day. There's definitely an argument to be made that this is my favorite album of all time. It's right up there. But again, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on this journey with me. If you've made it this far, it would just mean the world to me if you took one moment to either subscribe, like a video, listen to some of my original music that I'll link, or just leave like a nice comment down there. Yeah, it's been a great journey. Queen's content does not have to stop just because I've finished reacting to all the albums. I can come up with a top 10 Queen songs. I could do like best song on every album. I have a lot of different ideas that I can do. I don't know what you guys are interested in. Honestly, the Queen's views are not that great, but the reason I make this content is because I ended up actually loving the band. How to Write a Queens of the Stone Age song so long ago. Those videos took, 40 hours plus to make. You have to make an entire song and then make a video showing you making the song. That just took so long. So I was like, well, I'm going to expand and just kind of react to all the music. I didn't realize that I was going to become such a super fan. And you can see I've reacted to some other artists like Nothing But Thieves, and I think they're a great band. But I didn't absolutely fall in love with them the way that I did with Queens of the Stone Age. So despite the fact that I think I have like 2,000 views on my reaction to the debut, I was like, I don't care. I'm going to put the whole video up. I'm not going to cut the songs much because I want you guys to have the best experience. And I just love the band. Like, I just have fun talking about them. So just let me know like that you appreciate it, because obviously it takes a lot of time to put these together, like the editing, the recording. I have a full-time job. I'm supporting somebody, and I'm trying to engage in my own creative outlets as well. Something else, I've actually met a few of you guys at Queen's live shows. 2 different times this has happened. So shout outs to you. If you ever see me, feel free to say hi. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me on the journey. I know people say that at the end of every video as a default, but I actually mean it. Like, thank you, because if nobody was watching, I would still be making these videos. And the evidence goes to show that, because back in the day in high school, I was making Halo videos. I had like 50 subscribers for like years, and I didn't care. I was like, I'm still gonna make the videos because I want to. It's the same thing with this. I'd just be doing it no matter what. So, but it means the world to me that people are out there and actually appreciating the time and effort that I put into this content. So with all that said, I just hope you guys all have a great day. You definitely leave me your rankings down below, and peace. Bye.